this is the biggest thing, I think. It's not necessary at 10 years old to be playing AAA. Doesn't make you a good hockey player or not. It's just necessary that they're playing. If they want to be a professional hockey player, they don't even know what that means, but of course you want to play in the NHL, you want to play, so you go have fun.
Do you want to start with anything? Because these episodes are going to be kind of long.
No, I'll
You wanna just
skip
get rid
through
of
it. I don't have thoughts.
No. Okay, so we've done this in the past. We're going to kind of do it again under the new podcast. We did a collection of mini series in the past, and I want to do it again because I thought that they were awesome and they were very well received, and a lot has changed because I think it was maybe 4 years ago now when we did it. So it's been a little bit. So I think it's good to revisit. So the first one we're going to do, it's going to be 6 episodes, and it's about parenting topics basically. So I'll read some of the titles of them, just so people know.
Parenting in hockey, though, right?
Yeah, parenting in hockey. We're not parent experts. I'm certainly not, but things to do with hockey and parenting through sports and stuff like that. So the first one today, we're just going to kind of introduce the series and talk about some parenting philosophy stuff. The second one, we're going to talk about pressures of parenting within the hockey framework. That'll be the second episode. Third episode, what's age appropriate. So talking about age appropriate training and such. Fourth is going to be coaching, how to approach the topic of coaching as parents. Training and skill development will be the next one. And then supporting and communicating with either your kids, your child, your coaches, whatever. So each of those are going to be kind of what we're talking about. So as we go through, we're going to hit it should basically cover pretty comprehensively any parenting topic, I would say in general. And then we can kind of take it from there. So the first one for today is I kind of want to first talk about why this kind of stuff is I guess useful. So from the parenting side, I guess to start for you, just some general thoughts about going through these different topics, why you feel it's important to cover this kind of stuff for the parents. So if you kind of put your parent hat on, think about going through youth hockey, youth sports as a parent and some of the pieces that can be challenging or whatever. What are just some general thoughts on it for parents to start?
Well, what are general thoughts or why it's important? I think it wasn't so much. I was kind of fortunate enough because I played hockey and I grew up in this world. So I had a clue of what was going on, right? Or I think where a lot of people who didn't really get involved in sports, and this is what I see a lot, is the blinds leading the blind, right? They just follow what other people are doing, and they because someone said you should do this, this, and this, that's people kind of just follow it. So that could be not necessarily good, because if you just look at normal everyday life, if you listen to the average person, you're probably going to be doing the wrong thing anyways, right? So it's kind of better if you understand the business and the sports through someone that has been there or experienced, right? They say experience is a great teacher, but the experience of others is even better because you learn from mistakes. The other thing it's important is because it's before even knowing somebody, and if I know they play hockey or their kids are in hockey, I know that they're probably at some point going to go off the rails at some way, get caught up in things, right? So, am I doing too much? Am I doing too little? And then get caught up in their kids' success or failures. So if you just kind of have a grasp on, you understand, and it's one of the hardest things to do as a parent, right? You want to see your kid do well. But at the same time, I don't understand where people go nuts because there's only so many people that could actually achieve something out of sports. So I think it's important to understand this thing, maybe when we talk about this, to understand that has to be the great things about sports and being a parent in sports. Here's the great things. Great things is as a parent, you get to watch your kid play sports. You get to watch your kid maybe have goals, try to achieve goals. You get to spend time with them. You get to communicate with them. It's a time sharing thing, and you know that if they're playing sports, there's a better chance of them staying out of trouble. The negative side is it costs a lot of money. But you can get caught up in all these things, and you could if you don't have the relationship of a parent, you have to guide your kids. That's the number one thing I would say. You guide, but don't get overly involved. And that's where a lot of things can go sideways with kids in hockey, just parents putting pressure, different things like that. So I think it's important, like in a lot of things, because in a lot of areas, to have an understanding going in or while you're doing it, like recognizing where you could step over lines or not be encouraging enough or being too hard on someone or not hard enough. Like, you know what I mean? So there's a lot of avenues, right? So when like simply for me, when I was watching my son, I never wanted my son to play hockey. I mean that very loosely though. I didn't care if he played hockey. That's how I'll say it. In fact, and so why would you ever say that? You're a hockey player, your business hockey. Well, I said that because I understand the other side. I've seen when people look at hockey, they look at fun. When the people look at, maybe here's it, especially coming from me being a hockey player, you could guide them along the way. But what they didn't see is the times that, growing up, how many times I've been mentally hurt, um, digging deep to figure things out. Um, the adversity that's not the fun stuff to go with, the jealousy, all those different things is what people see. And then just like the physical pain, right? Playing hockey is a game that hurts, and it'll test you if you're serious at it. It'll test you in every way, which doesn't mean that's a bad thing, but it's not all just having fun. And if you're good at it, you get to make a lot of money. There's other sides to it that's where I kind of wanted him to just maybe hopefully find something else. But
Do you find, like, just keeping it like with the parenting hat on right now, because you've seen it as a player, as a coach, we've talked about all these different things. As a parent, have you, some of the things that you see parents can kind of get crazy about? Do you find yourself struggling with some of those things also, but you just have like the perspective to keep yourself in check? Like, can you see? I know you said like it's hard to see where parents go squirrely, but like, have you ever felt that kind of parent pull to, I don't know, be so biased towards your kid in whatever way that you can feel yourself kind of maybe getting squirrely about
yeah,
it?
well,
Or
there's definitely times where you have to check yourself in, right? Like and just like in the simplest forms, you go to the OHL draft. That was his first draft, and you look and if you don't have your shit together, you can look and you see someone that you feel is just like he's not that good, or my son's way better than that. So that's your first taste of not fair, right? It's fair, but that's your first taste, and then it's when they have to maybe work harder for something. And every parent goes through this. Like every parent would like to see their kid get more ice, more this, more that. But when you have to earn it, where it seems like you have to work harder to earn something, it's like your dad or your mom hat comes on, and it's like, you get almost not protective, but you feel for your kids, right? You just want them to be able to do well. And yeah, so there's many times where you have to check yourself in because it's your child. So the thing that you have to do is you have to honestly, part of being a parent in sports is separate um, your feelings of the sport. Like you actually have to let that person play the sport, go through all the good and the bad, because we always want the good, but the bad is actually what makes you, and you have to understand that. But it's easy to say, but when they're going through the bad or the adverse parts, then that's where parents can really step in and really mess it up. So you really have to be able to sit there objectively, and that's really more of the mindset that I've always had. It's like you want to play, that's fine. Just like if you want to go to school, go to school. I can't go to school with you and make sure you do everything right properly. I could check in to make sure you're trying your best, but I can't make you do things because ultimately it's your decision. And it's the same with the game. There's gonna be the good, the bad, and you have to take it, and you have to solve the problems. So, like as a dad and a mom, you have to guide the best you can. But I would not recommend being a helicopter parent, taking care of everything because they need to figure it out. And unfortunately or fortunately, in sports, people that can't figure it out early get weeded out early too. You have to be tough mentally and physically.
I think maybe framing a bit of a philosophy, like kind of setting the stage for the rest of the conversations that we have. I think this is an important thing to touch on, just in general, is what do you want out of sports for your kids? So like if you had to go back and answer that question again from the parent side, when any of your kids were starting to go through whatever the sports were, like what's the point? So like what would you say for you was the motivator? What were the things that you felt would be important, and what was the reason that you wanted to put your kids in sports in the first place, or wanted to let them explore sports in the first place?
Yeah. Well, I just think like for sure they were going to play sports no matter what, whether if they were playing with me or playing with a group of friends or ultra organized AAA or house league or whatever. But I for me, the way we grew up, they had to play sports. You have to, and like even if they weren't good at it, they would have had to play because there's so many good things in sports. So number one is it's for them to. There's so many things for the kid, but like as a just looking as a parent, like if you're not in a sport, then what the hell are you doing, right? And you could be saying, well, you could be in the next Elon Musk. That's okay, right? Yeah, 100%. But I still want you in sports because sports teaches your kids parenting that you can't teach, right? It teaches you like when you're parenting all the time and yeah, if everything you do is from a parenting perspective, then you're going to be wrong a lot of times. You're going to be biased, and when you go into sports, sports is unfair. So right, which when you're in unfair places, it's the most fairest thing in the world. That's an oxymoron, but it's the truth, right? I always said this about the boxing club. Boxing club, you can go into the boxing club and you can pretend you're tough. You can pretend you're working hard. You can pretend you're not scared. You can act all these different things. You can have the nice house, nice car, nice everything. Your parents have taken everything, have done everything for you, fed you real good. But at the end of the day, when you walk in the boxing gym, when the coach says grab a rope and start skipping, there's no excuses now. Like if you can only skip for 30 seconds, the coach doesn't go up to you and hug you. Says keep skipping. And if you can't, you either quit or you keep going and keep trying, which is a good lesson. And then when it comes down to whatever sparring, like even just the teaching and all that stuff, like you hold your hands here. There's no yeah buts because yeah but gets you a punch in the nose. So you learn all these different things, and then you either quit or you don't. And you get in the ring and you start sparring, even light sparring. You're either going to do it or you don't. And what you see is a lot of people quit real early because it's hard. It's fair, and it doesn't matter what socioeconomic demographic you freaking words here, eh? You come from. Fair is fair now.
Yeah.
It's the most fairest place in the world. So that's what I love about sports. So like especially in a thing like hockey, it's like number one, kids are busy. Number two, they're learning how to compete, which is a life skill. If you can't compete, then you're probably not going to win a lot of things. And you got to learn how to either compete fairly, honestly, or you can learn how to compete dirty. And I'm not saying that's necessarily good or bad. Sometimes you got to figure out how to win. It's called compete, right? Um, you learn how to work with a group of people. Now, I didn't want my kids to get in sports to learn how to work with a group of people, but that's a byproduct of being part of a team and playing a sport, even if it's tennis. If you and I play tennis, and I say it's out, you say it's not, there's a problem. So we have to deal with it, right? So there's so many. Sports to me is a microcosm of life, and it teaches you how to be fair. It teaches you how to work a room and how to have that social awareness, social cues. So if you walk into a dressing room when you're really young, even, and you say or do things to get attention that go the wrong way, and you look around and no one's laughing at your joke that you made, it's like, oh, maybe I won't do that again. Or like you learn things. That's the point.
Yeah.
And then just to stay fit, man.
Well, that's 100%. But what you've said this. I know you've said it in the past a little bit. Maybe you could talk a little bit about this. Is just using it as something to use to parent, right? Like you can use that to frame whatever the lessons are that you're trying to communicate. And I think like this is one thing that I remember when I was a kid is my dad loved a good life lesson, man. Like he loved a good life lesson. And there were some times where I could learn it on my own without it having to be explicitly stated by my parents. And I think to your point, it just gives you a vehicle to allow lessons to just happen or give you an example of a lesson that you want to try to relay to your kid. And there's so many things about it that just gives you a framework to work within to try to teach if you have the awareness as a parent to try to teach, right? And not all of them do, honestly. But if you are paying attention to the value that sports can bring, I think from the parenting lens, that's what it can do. It's for your kid. Obviously, there's all kinds of things they get to learn on their own. But for you as a parent, it's like now you have a kind of a playground to parent within, because you can point to that time you lost the game or that time you won the game, the time you were prepared versus the time you weren't prepared, the time you did the right things versus you did the wrong things. And there's all these things that will just naturally happen that you can try to parent within, right? I know you've said that many times, so I don't know if
Well, to me, it was like the easiest way to parent a kid. The easiest way to parent my kids was to actually use sports. And sometimes I didn't have to say a thing. The sports did the work for me, right? So you want to do this, or for a lot of people, they use school as their how do I say this? School is the not the enemy of sports, but it's the leverage. Sports is a leverage for school. Does that make sense? So obviously, if you don't do well in sports or school, sports can be the leverage. If you love your sport, then you're going to maybe have to do your homework. You don't get to do that until you do this. But like for me, it was the parenting. Yeah, it was like everything. And even to this day, I use his sports as a teaching tool, or, we could sit in the backyard all summer and drink beer. We really could. But because it's fun, right? You're sitting there having fun, telling jokes, laughing with your buddies. There's nothing better. But a kid that plays sports and is serious about it has to shut that night down at some point and can't do it every night or every weekend. So that's your measuring stick. It almost tells you how serious you are in the sport. But for me, it was like all I would have to say. Like I'll use that as an example. Not that we've had to, but if we're having a few pops in the backyard, me and my boy telling stories, asking questions is the other thing, right? You get to ask questions. They feel important telling you about their life, what they learned, and all that kind of stuff. But if like we're sitting in the back and we're having a good time, it's like if I want to go to bed, even say, well, I'm hitting the gym tomorrow. What about you? Yeah or no, but yeah, I should go to bed because of hockey. Like, you know what I mean? It's just sports does the parenting for you if you have a brain.
Yeah, yeah. So I want to kind of tailing it back more to the hockey side of it now. I think there's I guess from the time the kids are super young, so when they're, just start getting started, I find I've said this in the past before. I know for sure that it seems like things are a little bit more crazy the younger the kids are. As they start to get older, particularly past like draft year, when things start to get real, and you can kind of see now where your kid stacks up, because now you've had a little bit more of a look, maybe as a parent, as to how many players there are around that they're competing against. It can be kind of crazy. It seems younger, which doesn't really make a lot of sense for me. Like to me, you would think more questions occur the older the player gets, as it gets more serious, and maybe we need to be more precise with what we're doing. But it almost seems like there's more craziness that happens younger and younger. And so I think it'd be good for you to like lay out some perspective just through like all the players you've trained and all that on what is the most likely path for a kid that's going through hockey. It's like what where do you think that they're going to end up? Where do you think that finally, when they get to, the end of their career, where are most of the kids going to be? And I think that will give some kind of good perspective for the parents.
Yeah, well, like quite honestly, most people that start off in whatever sport that you're in, but let's just use hockey. We said hockey, right? Specifically, okay. Specifically for hockey, nobody knows who's good when they're young, anyways. So it's critically important just to let your kids play hockey. There's really no such thing as training. Because in order to train for hockey or anything, your brain has to process what you're doing. So it's all play. It's all play. Even you look at the long-term athletic development studies, that's what it is. It's all play, right? You play hockey, you play sports, you play badminton. It's not compete yet. It's just play. So when you're at the youngest, let's just say like a lot of kids start at 4, 5, or 6. So 4, 5, or 6, you have no clue how to play hockey. You're just playing. Parents get hung up on it shouldn't be cross ice. It should be more practice. It should be this, should be this. There's all these rules of what should and shouldn't be, but it's like just play. There's nothing you could do at that age that's going to hurt you. Nothing that you can do that's going to help you. Like Kinda. The more you skate when you're 6, you're probably going to be a better skater at 7, but you're not technically good, and everything can catch up very, very quickly and very easily. So it's like everything that for 99% of the things that parents worry about and question is not it's not important at all. The most important thing is the number one thing is just let them play and have fun. Like I think that's I know it sounds boring. It seems like that's not really a secret. You're holding something back, but that's actually what it is. Where they end up after is going to be dependent on, some kids get good at it and naturally just get good at being hockey. They can figure it out, the brain, all that kind of stuff. They get big enough, all those things, and they become a good enough player to play at a higher level, which is what? A, double A, triple A. And that's not most people. That's if you're fairly good. Some guys can start doing some training and private lessons or more hockey schools and not, and they get maybe a little bit better, but I'm talking naturally, some guys are just going to be better than others. At the end of the day, very, very, very small. I'm talking small. So like if you're a parent and your son is on a triple A team close to their draft year, not to be an ass, your kid's probably not going to get one game in the OHL. What an ass, eh? It's just the truth. Now, that's if you play for, an average center. If you play on a really concentrated team where guys are brought in from out of town and all those things, your chances don't necessarily go up. They go up, but not really a lot. So you might play on a super team in the I don't want to say super team because those kids are, well, I could say that. Not all those guys make it either.
Well, a lot of them could potentially get drafted, but whether they play or anything like that,
on an OHL team.
There's not
one OHL game.
Yeah.
So like you play on a pretty good GTHL team, is that what they're called? GTHL? Or a good Detroit team, Chicago-based team. Handful of players, tops, play one game in the OHL. Most of them this is a AAA level. Some of them will never play Junior B. They're just not good enough or big enough or dedicated enough or aren't willing to do the work or whatever. So if you take your 15 to 20 kids that are on a U16 team and all parents, like you think about it, all parents are going nuts. It's the biggest year. It's the draft year. It's like, yeah, it is the draft year for a couple guys, not for you. I'm not saying for you, but like you might be the one, but there are only a couple guys that it's really their draft year. Think about that. We do it every year. People make these crazy decisions. The draft year, it's the draft year, it's the draft year, it's the draft year. So yeah, but not for you. There's zero chance, or there's a very slim. Like I'm talking to mom and dad, right? You look at your kids. If you're not the best one standing out there in some way, absolute best, there's no chance to a certain degree. So that's the best players. You're not going anywhere. That's not to be negative. It's just reality, right? So that's the top. That's the high end local minor hockey player. If I was the other guys that don't play A and A, double A hockey and less, then just have fun. That's all it is. That's all hockey is. And then where you end up is nowhere. So a good player on your local team, like the good, like the exceptional ones are going to have a chance to play in the OHL. After that, you're going to might have a chance of playing in the junior A. Couple. Like I look at Charlie's AAA team. Him and Gibby and Gervais played major junior. And that was an exceptional team. Not an exceptional team, but they were a good team. Then they had maybe 5 guys that played junior A out west and Ontario. And then a few that played junior B and then no one else.
Yeah, so
It's a pretty good team.
I think, on that team, there's no more than 8 of them that played junior.
Yeah. So if you look at that, that's a real life thing that happens all the time. So that's a real team. So you have 5 to 8 guys that played junior, 3 that played in the OHL, 2 that are drafted in the NHL, which is exceptional. The rest of them, and this is what people do, they chase this thing around like crazy. The parents were stressed out. I remember telling a joke upstairs with a couple of the boys because they wanted to have a beer at this rink, talking about, because all they could talk about is hockey, the tournament, the training, the coaches, and they were so bent out of shape about everything, like they couldn't sleep. I was trying to tell Jerv a joke one time, and he's the only one that laughed because everyone were starting to listen, and this was a funny one. He was dying, and the other guys looked at us like we were nuts after, like, what are you guys laughing at? We weren't talking about our kids' hockey that's going anywhere, not going anywhere. So that's really what it is. So like now you look at it from the kids' perspective. I'd love to sit down with them and have honest conversations. Say, Casey, now if you were to do this all over again, would you really have put them in every spring tournament and spend the thousands and thousands and thousands of dollars? I didn't just say $1,000 or thousands. I said thousands and thousands and thousands and thousands of dollars to play spring hockey. Now, it would be different if the spring hockey served a purpose in the kid's life. But that's not why they put them in the spring hockey, because they listened to other people and they looked, oh, this kid's doing this, people are doing this. If I don't do this, I won't make it. Well, you didn't make it anyways. You weren't going to. The kids that were good enough did, right? And dedicated enough. Would you have just relaxed and enjoyed your life a little bit more? Like, I totally understand enjoying watching your kid play hockey. Like, I'm at the point, my son in junior hockey, right? The next level is going to be the next level. Like, I'm enjoying it. And you know this. I've enjoyed this to the max. I enjoy watching my kid. But like, do you hear what I said? I love watching my son play hockey. It's up to him. I cannot stress about it. Can't stress about his contract. I can't stress about what the next steps are. That's his stress now. Period.
Yeah, I think some of the parents, I do honestly think that a lot of parents think there's some kind of recipe to get there. Like, because that's something we've talked about as well. I think a lot of them really do believe, if I do this, if I do this, if I do this, if I do this, then my kid he'll be a kid that gets drafted or gets an opportunity at a higher level or whatever. And I don't think they realize necessarily what the pool is like in terms of how many players, how good the players are. Like, so can you give even just a couple examples of guys you've trained? Because I know we talked about this before, of guys you trained that were like, let's say, give me a guy that did everything. They did all the extra, they did the private lessons, they did everything. A guy that didn't do much, and maybe a guy that was in the middle, and maybe all three were successful over time. Because
Eric Wellwood did nothing.
Yeah. Yeah.
Eric Wellwood did nothing. His brother Kyle did less than nothing. Kyle spent some time with me on the ice. Not that much. He did nothing off the ice. Nothing. Eric worked hard where he needed to work, and was drafted the 5th round to the Windsor Spitfires. Played junior B. Got called up near the end of the year. Played 4 years with the Spitfires. Hit a checking role. Went to the gym. Never was a thick guy, but he was strong. Went to the gym. Never really touched a hockey stick in the summertime. He grew up with shitty equipment. His dad wouldn't buy him. You know, when all the fancy sticks came out, he used to joke around. He goes, "Hey, coach, look at my stick." Be like a Louisville Slugger or whatever, right? And I'd just laugh.
And he still was just one of the best guys.
But he actually took pride in it.
Yeah.
Because I'm going to still score all the goals. I go, I know you are.
Yeah.
Right? And he was the best guy on the ice. 0 effort. He's just good.
So was he a guy that was doing like private lessons and spring hockey and that kind of stuff?
No, I said 0.
Yeah.
And Kyle did less than 0.
Yeah.
They played in the NHL. And then the other extreme was like, I can give you like 3,000 different names of people that did everything.
Give me like okay. So my point is, like, a guy that came to mind for me was Eki. You've talked about Eki before because he was doing like the morning private lessons and the extra stuff. Like, I don't know if he did this spring hockey and whatever, but would you consider him the opposite extreme where he did do all the things, or did he do some?
He didn't do all. He did. You know, so he was.
He'd be a more middle of the road guy.
It was, and for I think for the parents, it wasn't because they had to. It's because like he was in my morning groups when he was a kid. Like let's say 12 till his draft year. He'd come to, you know, in the morning at 6:30 once a week. Dad would drop him off. Hey Andy, how you doing? Hey Dave, how you doing? See you after. Yeah, and Dad would take off. So it wasn't because he was crazy. The kid wanted to get some extra skates. It was good for him to touch the ice a little bit, but he didn't do much more than that. Working out, didn't do a lot. It was like,
so you'd consider him like maybe a middle guy where they were doing some extra stuff, some camps and whatever, but not like going ape shit.
Nothing crazy at all. And like worked out probably when he was drafted, like lifting weights and stuff like that. Nothing crazy. and then did you go to some spring terms? Did a couple. Yeah, nothing crazy though, not
Yeah.
off the charts.
And
And
then
then
the guy we talked about last time, I remember, maybe there's a better example now, but we talked about Matt Pumple, because Pumple, I remember he was a guy that did the Europe spring hockey thing, and like, so I don't know if he was the opposite end of the spectrum where he was like doing everything. He did all the extra things, did the spring hockey, did the camps, did the whatever. Like, is that a fair spectrum? If you get like did like Eric Wellwood to Eki to Pumps, is that like a fair spread or no?
I would say Matt Pomple was first round in the OHL, first round in the NHL. I would say he did enough because the extremes are the extremes. I would lump Pumps and Ekblad in the same vein. Trained, but okay. But here's the thing. Here's the thing. When you are the kid, it makes sense. Let me just go the other way. Let me get back to that. The other extreme is the kids that do everything. Like okay. So for example, there's a kid that came when I was training the other night at my old shop. Kid came in. He goes, my legs are really tired again. He's 13 or 12, 13 years old. I said, oh yeah. He goes, yeah, because my dad brought me to the gym and it's like crazy. And then he had skating with a private coach. Then he had practice. Then he was going to do some more training. Like that's already 5 hours in a day. That's what I'm talking about. And then I'm not sure, but the kid I think goes to one of these Hockey Canada academies. Like it's never enough. So like if there's a skating treadmill, we're using it. If there's a shooting pad, we're using it. If there's free ice, we're using it. If there's a power skater, we're using it. Any spring thing, anything that we can do to train, that's what we're doing. And with zero thought, because my kid, we need to train him. It's like that's what I mean about the extreme. Most others fall in the middle.
Yeah. Okay. So this kind of leads me. This kind of leads me to my next point of like, so from the parenting side, I hope like not to be like super negative. It was just like to give some context on like what the reality is of where the kid may or may not end up through hockey, and kind of keeping that in mind as a parent. So then the flip side of it now is if you go to your kid and your kid, like what does your kid want out of the sport, right? And if your kid says, well, I want to go play in the NHL, now you've just kind of laid out some context in the background of like how difficult that goal really is. So now how do you draw the balance of like, okay, this is what my kid wants to do. How do I support them pursuing that to whatever degree? Because you're not just going to go to them and say, hey, stupid, you're not getting drafted. Just quit now and do something else, right? So how do you draw the lines then from a parent where you're like, okay, I want to help support this, that they want to pursue this thing. I know the context in the background as mom or dad, but I still want to make sure I'm being there as a parent for my kid, for them to try to work to pursue this thing, because you just don't know. Like, and like Matt Martin was the one that you talked about in the past too, of like I don't know, was he playing A? Like I don't know if he even played it.
He never played it,
right? And so like those are things that can happen. So how do you draw the lines like as a parent?
But his parents didn't go nuts either.
Right. So it
was internally driven.
Yeah. So make that like kind of I guess spell that out a little bit.
I totally
right?
understand. So you're basically saying your kid says I want to play in the NHL. So as a parent, you just say, oh, well, we better do everything we can to get him there. Right? He's 6. Everybody wants to play in the NHL, just like everyone wants to be a fireman and a policeman and a doctor and all that stuff. And it's like, okay, great. Well, that's cool. First step is to get you to play hockey. Are you playing hockey? Okay, great. Are you any good at it? No. Oh, too bad for you. But you never say that to your kid. You're just not good enough. You give them the opportunity to play. But playing, it's not necessary this is the biggest thing, I think. It's not necessary at 10 years old to be playing AAA. Doesn't make you a good hockey player or not. Right? It's just necessary that they're playing. If they want to be a professional hockey player, they don't even know what that means, but of course they want to play in the NHL, you want to play, so you go have fun. Go play at the level that you can and have fun. And if you can play, if you make your local team, right, we live in the Windsor, Essex County. So we live in the town of Essex, and Charlie made his the town of Essex hockey club when he was young. Good. And it was good because you got kids that are maybe a little bit more like-minded that want to play travel. They were no good. Like, I don't mean the kids were no good. Like, as in general, they were just no good. But a couple kids move on a little bit to play AAA and stuff. But that doesn't mean like as soon as you're on that team, you need to move. He played there for a couple of years. wasn't going to hurt or help him. But what's great about those couple of years is he had a real seemed like a real burning desire to be competitive and good and all that kind of stuff. And he worked really hard to the point where when he was 12, we said, he was should have been like, of course he should have been playing AAA. But from our perspective, was like, okay, I saw the like-mindedness of him compared to the other guys as different. He cared about hockey, not just surface level. He wanted to do well in hockey, and he was raised around it too. So having him around more like-minded people was just better for him. We didn't chase one thing. So when he went to AAA, he wasn't like barely scraping the bottom of the barrel to make it. He was, he was a top 2 or 3 on that team, like for sure. And I'm being humble, right? Because that's the kind of guy I am, right? And then the next level was just to be really good at that. There's nothing to chase. So you foster it until you water it until there's nothing to be watered. But you don't put false promises in there or do something that's just out of ordinary. Like it's okay. Like you teach them in other ways instead. You don't have to say you can't play in the NHL, but you could play this for a long period. Kids figure it out. Kids figure it out. When you're when you're in the middle of the pack on a team, you're the middle of the pack on a team. So if you really want to get better, you're going to find ways to get better, or you're going to whine and complain and not. So that's it.
Yeah, I think in my mind, I think this is kind of the way that I usually frame it if people ask my opinion is, if you're gauging what you can do as a family, like what can you afford, what's logistically not a pain in the ass, what's convenient for your lifestyle, and like taking those factors into consideration, I think that should pretty much guide what you choose to do versus not do with your kids' sports. Because a lot of times the parents will they're not sure what they can and can't do. And like I always start with those questions. Like, okay, if a parent comes and says, hey, like I've had a few this year, like heading into the off season, like, hey, I got invited to this camp and this camp and this camp and this camp. And all of them are those like generic like ID camp things, whatever, for where you have to pay your however many $100, whatever. And like I don't care that they're fundraising. Like this is the thing, is like all these, especially if you're talking about junior camps, like all of them are fundraisers for the teams. Everyone knows that. But you can go there and make an impression and maybe take a spot or get invited to main camp or whatever. So it's not that it's just like a don't go to any camps ever. But in my mind, I always say to them like, okay, logistically, can you go? Financially, could you go? If you guys are gauging what's worth it versus not worth it, does that make sense to do? And then from after you answer those questions, then you decide, okay, kid, do you want to go or not? Right? You don't need to stretch yourself financially. You don't need to stretch yourself logistically. You don't need to make it super inconvenient because you have to be there. I think like my take home message is like, you don't have to do anything. There's nothing you have to do. Right? So if you're choosing to do something, what's the reason that you're choosing to do it? Is it, okay, my kid wants to go on a skating treadmill because he thinks they're cool and that would be fun. That's not a bad reason. So if you can afford to put him on a skating treadmill and it works with your schedule of your family and your life, like that's not necessarily a horrible thing to do if that's what you want to do. If he wants to go play spring hockey and it's a 1 weekend tournament that all his buddies are playing in, it's not like we're saying, no, don't go do that. Like that, it's just, what is the reason that you're doing what you're doing, right? And I think if you're trying to gauge how to support your kids doing whatever they're doing, I think you have to start from those kinds of reasons. The driver should never be like, I think this is the best way to make them better so they can get drafted, so they can make a team, so they can go do this or that or whatever. Like, or even just to everyone's doing it, so that's why I'm going to do it. Like, those are not good reasons, in my opinion, to make those types of decisions. So I think for me, when you're trying to gauge like how do you support their goals, I think that's the framework to start from. It's always the financial, logistics, convenience. And then after you answer those questions, because like I said, I don't have a kid, but if I had a kid and the kid said, hey, I want to go do this camp, or can I afford it? Can I take time off work to do that? Do I have to dance around to make it happen so that they can go? Like, there's no opportunity that's that significant when they're that young. It doesn't matter what tournament we're talking about, whatever. If they're invited to go play for the World Junior Team Canada, like they're gonna pay for it.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
You don't got to worry about it then.
Yeah.
So there's no opportunity that is going to be that important that you have to jump through hoops. So I think after you get past that layer, then you ask those other questions of like, okay, kid, like, why do you want to go do this thing? Like, what is you want to? Oh, you want to get a membership or go to a certain trainer or do this or that. Okay, we can afford to do that. Like, let's say we have the money to be able to do that. Why do you want to go to this trainer? Like, why is this the person you want to go to? Oh, because my two buddies are going and it'd be cool to work out together through the summer. Okay, that's cool. Like, that could be fine, right? Or is it, hey, I'm going to put my kid with this off ice trainer because he was the strength coach for an NHL guy. It's like, it's not the same type of reason. Even though it's the same action, it's not the same type of reason. So that would be my only kind of like guidance on that. At any point, like, how much do you let the player's opinion dictate what you're doing? So if the one example that comes to mind for me was you talked about Charlie with spring hockey. Like, he wanted to go play spring hockey with his buddies or whatever. How much does the kid's opinion influence what your decisions are as the parent?
I had parents say that all my kid wants to do is shoot pucks. It's all he ever wants to do. He doesn't want to do anything else. I'm like, yeah. Ask him if he wants to go to the movies. They'll say yeah. Ask them if they want to go to some other thing or try something. They'll say yes. Trust me, they will. So, of course, they want to go to every spring tournament. Their friends are going, of course, but they don't get to. You just simply don't get to. I get to veto that as the dad because it's like, first of all, it would just cost me an arm and a leg. Like, actually couldn't afford that to go to every spring tournament and every training session. I couldn't do it. And actions will speak louder, right? Like, if you really want to, because kids will say no, they'll never say no, right? Even to this day, my kid will keep doing stuff over and over and over. So like he doesn't have a say unless he had a really good okay, but then see, the thing is that it's how you prepare this, right? Like, if you just every time your kid asks for something you give it to them, then you're caught in a rut. But like, hockey season would be, and this is what I kind of said to him a long time ago, and my wife and I were on the same page, is hockey season is basically almost September, let's say August to March, and that's over. That's hockey. Hockey season's over. If you can't figure out how to be a good hockey player, or give it your all for those 6 months or 8 months, whatever, 7 months, I don't know, I'm not the best in math, but it's more than 2 and less than 12. But if you can't focus and dial in and work hard and to get everything out of your sport in the 6-7 months, which is healthy, then learn how to work harder, learn how to enjoy it, learn how to appreciate it. But that's the whole point. At the end of the hockey season, if you continue to play it, then you start taking it for granted. You're not going to give it everything you got. So that was like a major reason why we did it. Like, hockey season's over, let's go do something else. Number one, we needed a break as parents, and he needed a break as a kid. He needs to go do something else. So the thing is, I knew that also doing anything else other than, I owned a gym and I had ice, but we weren't training him. He would come around and hang out because he loved being around the thing. But he played baseball, played soccer, played lacrosse, and everything else under the sun. That's what he needed to do as a kid. That's what your kid, I don't care if you have Connor McDavid as your son. There's only one person that does, but then is what your son needs to do at the end of a hockey season, unless he's getting close to a draft year. Then he might need to work out as a priority. But you don't need to be doing any of those things. So that's why I looked at it. Hockey's over. Let's go do something else and do it well. And by the time the end of the summer comes, he was itching to play hockey. Couldn't wait for his new team. Couldn't wait to get on the ice. And that's what you want. Otherwise, you're just going to have the same vanilla effort every single time. Looks like they're working hard, but they're not really not. And I see that that's the biggest flaw in hockey players, is they're on the ice so much and they play so many games, and they're so spoiled. And I don't mean that like as a jerk, but like, they're getting what they want, is to play hockey all the time, and that's one of the reasons why they're not performing at the level that they should. So, anyways, you asked me what time it is. Show you how the watch was made. Those are some of the reasons why I would say, like, no, you don't get everything you get, because you're the parent that has a brain, should have a brain, and should be able to invoke some of that brain into your kids and suggest other things. So hockey's over. This is what we're doing now.
So then
example.
So then how do you balance them being interested in doing that one thing. So if you have a kid that genuinely just wants to be playing hockey all the time, like how much does their opinion on like, yeah, but mom or dad, like I actually just want, this is what I want to do like all the time. Like
Then there's a stick. I'll get you a stick for the summertime and a tennis ball or a puck. There's a net. Go nuts. Because what happens is no different than when we grew up, right? Like one of the missing links in life in general right now is that we have access to everything, right? I was just talking today. There was one of the boys that one of the younger guys today left a $500 stick on the bench. Think of what I just said. Not a thought. It was his backup stick. That's why his backup stick is $500. That's it. That's an issue. Of course, they're going to say, "Yeah, I want to play hockey." If you really want to play hockey, you're going to find a way to play hockey with your friends by yourself because that's what I did. That's what my brothers did. That's what we used to do. That's what kids that still really want to be hockey players do, things that are hockey related. It's too bad that like I want to have a freaking T-bone steak or beef tenderloin every night, but that gets expensive. I can't. It's just like ice gets expensive and stuff like that. You can't. So it doesn't matter what they want. You got to be smart enough. You know what I mean? Like your kid might want to have Doritos every single night, but you're as a parent, you don't say, well, because he wants it, he gets it. You got to be the parent. You got to tell them yes or no, and here's why. You can have conversations about it, but like if they're not playing hockey, they're going to be doing something else, and it might be hockey related or something physically like some other sport, most likely because they have friends. So they don't get a say in certain things.
so just like outside of it, like guiding the thing, like the type of activity that they want to do, like that's to the extent their opinion is relevant. It's like they're pointing, like, because I would imagine you're allowing them, they're dictating the things that they're interested in doing. But outside, after you get past that, it's like they're not the ones that are calling the shots on what they're doing, what tournaments they're going to, or whatever. And you have to have enough, I guess, self-awareness as a parent to put the guardrails up on like what actually makes sense versus not. And I think that's like the big takeaway for me is just like again, nothing is that consequential, and you don't know who is actually going to, like, if you want to call it whatever, however you define make it, whether that's the NHL or pro or college or OHL or whatever.
Just make it a AAA team. Because that's not all negative, right? Because if a kid, like, again, there's a thing. Like it's what you do to get there. Like and it goes back to my thing: is it who's motivated in the house? Is the mom or the dad or the kid? Because usually not both, right? So if a parent wants them to get to AAA because it's good for their ego or makes them feel good, or their kid got to win, and you win at all means just to get them on the third line on a AAA team, it might not be a win. But the kid just really worked hard, and you sit there, you know what? The kid he really is working hard. He got invited to the AAA tryout, and I want to give him a chance, and he made it, and he did it on his own merit and all that kind of stuff. That's a win in life. It really is. You taught your kid, this is what the sports is about. If you work really hard on your terms, like not your terms, but because you worked hard, not because dad made you work hard, but when the kid does things and shoots pucks and does all the things to get there, that's a win. And that's a life lesson that he can take for the rest of his life. Right?
Yeah. Yeah. Well, I guess my finishing thing is like, because there isn't really a recipe, like we've talked about that before, there's nothing you can follow. And your kid might be like totally like just doing it for fun, and you're not really putting any extra attention into it. And then all of a sudden they take off and are phenomenal at the sport and end up getting the next step and the next step. Because that happens too, where it's just like, yeah, I'm just letting the kid play. And then it turned out he was really good when he got older. And you never did anything extra. You never did the skates and the camps and all this extra stuff. So I think for me, like, to wrap it up, we started off kind of with the question of like, what do you want to get out of sports, like for your kids? And that should be the number one thing that kind of guides your decision making, is like, what's the point of what we're doing, and making decisions within that framework of like, this is why I like having my kid in sports. And then as they progress through, like, you're doing things that are making sense for your family, not, out of I think this is necessary for them to get to the next level, to the next level, to the next level. Because, I'm thinking of this one kid that I know of, and they have all kinds of, they've done all the extra everything. They've done everything there is, and the kid's getting older, and he's just not that good. Like he's just not that good. And like it's not it's no and that's not a problem, right? That's
Not
not
at
it's
all.
not that that's a bad thing.
It's
It's
normal,
just
actually.
you've done so much, and you've talked to us so much. You've gone to every single thing possible, and the opportunities are now less and less because now that you're getting older where things are evened out and things matter, you're just not that good, right? And that is okay. But I don't know that it's okay for the parents because they've been so invested in doing all of these things and hearing the conversations,
100%.
you know. On the flip side, like talking to, I'm thinking of another kid now where they've never done much. Like they've never done a ton of things. And this kid's now getting to the age where he's actually taking off in the other direction where it's like, this is going to be a kid that's going to be very, very highly touted. And you talk to the parents and they're just like, yeah, he's been playing and and he likes it. And I guess like that's good for him. Right. And so because you just don't know, and there isn't really a recipe, like you could do all the right things, you could do nothing, whatever, and you just don't know where the kids are going to end up. So you don't need to drive yourself crazy doing all of these other things. What should be guiding you is just, this is why I like having my kid in sports. And like, that's kind of my way to finish it off.
Yeah.
Anything to finish
No,
off?
that's 100% right. Like let the kids dictate it. And it's funny too. At some point when you said your kids are just not that good, like you'll find out that at some point they're just not that good. And everyone will find that out. Like every hockey player will find that out. And my son, when he got to the OHL, he and this is his last year in the OHL, but when he got traded to Brantford, he goes, "I'll just never be like him, like Banak, let's say." Because there's a skill that if you were saying skill for skill, he would say I'm no good, because he's that good. So you got someone that's an NHL draft pick and is a really good hockey player looking at a guy on his team and goes, I'm just no good at that. Right. So at some point you're going to find you're just not that good. Some guys that skate, it's just like you'll never be that good. No matter what you do, you could take a lesson every day. You could do everything right for whatever. You're just never going to be that. But it's okay. There's other ways you can be good, but you have to realize it. So it's not an insult to anybody. At some point, you're just not that good. And you get to the NHL when you thought you were if you're a good player and you get to the NHL, like everybody is that good. Everybody. So then that makes you just not that good. You're just kind of a bucket of vanilla with a very, very, very few rare exceptions, right? So so the biggest thing is you will regret it as a parent if you got real serious as a parent, not as a kid, as a parent, and you put all resources and you lose sleep and you go nuts and you don't let your kids fight their battles and all these different things. And at the end of the day, when they're 14 or 17, and what was it for? What was it for? So enjoy it and get the most you can out of the sports. And to me, that's having fun, learning how to be on a team, solving problems, growing up in a fair environment of a dressing room, etc., and all those things. Like the actual true life lessons of playing a sport, they're actually true. And if they're good enough to go to a certain level, that'll happen, whether you want it or not, right?
Yeah. Well, so I hope, I guess, I mean, the point of this episode, I hope it's not coming off like too negative. I think the point, I'm trying to just make sure you have perspective as we kind of set the table for like the next couple episodes, because if you don't have, we're going to get into like dealing with some of the common things that you're dealing with as parents through sports. And if you're not coming at it from the same framework that we're coming at it from, which is what the purpose of this episode is, then we might not be on the same page if you're listening to the next few episodes and listening to the way we're talking about things. But so for the next couple, just again, reading the kind of the title so you guys know what is to come. The next episode is going to be the pressures of parenting. Next one is going to be what's age appropriate. The next episode will be about coaching, like from the parenting perspective, training and skill development, and then support and communication with your kids. And so that'll kind of round out what we're going to call like a little parenting mini series. So hopefully that's useful to set the table, and we'll keep her going with it next week.